Dave Siegel. The sergeants at arms, please check and see if there are any delegates outside. The order of business for this morning, without objection, will be the report from the Finance Committee without debate. Safety Committee is in session and is not ready to issue their report. They will issue their report on Thursday. We'll defer their report till Thursday. Immediately after the report from the Finance Committee, we will go into constitutional amendments, unfinished business, and new business with the Finance Committee resolutions, other resolutions before the body. First order of business this morning is the report from the Finance Committee. Chair recognizes the Chairman of the Finance Committee.
The National Finance Committee has completed business under the following articles in the PATCO Constitution. Article 10, Section 1, Paragraph C. The committee has reviewed the financial reports and annual budget and found them in order as reported. Article 7, Section 4. The committee has reviewed the salaries of the elected national officers and recommends the following resolution. Whereas the National Finance Committee is required by the National Constitution, Article 7, Section 4, to review and recommend the salaries of the national officers annually, be it resolved that commencing January 1, 1979, the salary of President shall be $52,000 per year, the salary of Executive Vice President shall be $46,000 per year, and the salary of the Regional Vice Presidents shall be $40,000 per year. Thank you. It's all yours.
The Chairman of the Constitution Committee present. Ferning's not here. What are we doing there? He's not here? Nope.
What are you waiting for now?
Chairman of the Constitution, he's not here. Proceed without him. Get the Vice Chairman.
Yeah, ask for the Vice Chairman of the Constitution Committee and see if they've got a report to prepare.
Bill. Is the Vice Chairman of the Constitution Committee present? Can't proceed without him. Gotta wait.
Maybe we gotta wait for him. Give me the window.
What the hell are you doing in session? With the Constitution Committee, we're in session right now, and I'll give you a report as soon as we get word back from them. Let's take a 5-minute standing recess in place. Bring the assembly to order, please.
John, if you get the script there.
No, I didn't get one.
2B. We talked about yesterday.
2B.
Nobody yesterday.
Where are you at?
Article 2.
The body has the proposed amendments to the Constitution before them. There's no second required. The Constitution Committee Chairman gave you the Scribner's insertion on Article 2, Section B. After the word held, insert the word within 30 days. Within. For deliberation before the body is the proposed amendment to Article 2, the National Constitution. Discussion on the issue. In discussion on the proposed change, Article 2, to the National Constitution.
Ready for the vote?
Are you ready for the vote?
There's Mike 2.
Recognize microphone 2.
Mr. Chairman, fellow delegates, I wish to propose an amendment to Article 2, Section B.
Amendments in order.
Two word changes is all. Secret mail ballot election shall be completed as opposed to conducted by the national office. And also, on the last line, insert the word completed as opposed to held within 30 days.
Would you give it again, please, Les?
Okay, change the word from conducted on the first line to completed, and also insert the word completed for held on the last line.
Before within on the second, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. The amendment before the body to the amendment to the Constitution is a deletion of the word conducted, inserting completed in Article 2, Section 3, subsection B, and also the insertion of the word completed before the word held on the next to last line of subsection B. Is there a second to the amendment? Amendment is seconded. Discussion.
Our feeling on this is that the word conducted and the word held is too loosely written. It doesn't actually pin down the national office as to completion of the balloting. We want to see the balloting completely done within 45 days after the convention. Also, the second ballot, if necessary, should be completed within 30 days. That's our rationale.
Any further discussion? Question before the body then is the amendment to the Constitution, insertion of the word completed in two sections of Article 2. Are you ready for the question? It's instead of, it's a substitution, not an insertion. The only insertion was the Scribner's within on the other line. This is substitution. The word completed for conducted, and the insertion of the word completed before the word held on the next to last line. Where are we at between the two?
Be completed for conducted
Right.
and completed.
For held, okay. It's substitution in both cases.
What is the word in the, what's the word, the last word in the last line?
Completed in both cases. Okay. Okay.
It doesn't work?
Are you ready for the question? Recognize the gentleman, microphone 2.
Are you going to take the amendments in total all the way through, or are you going to take them by section?
I think section by section would be easier.
But this one here you proposed in total.
No, I'm taking an amendment to the amendment right now, which was in order. Proposed
No, in the
by-
beginning, though, you brought up you didn't go section 2, subsection A. You said the entire article.
That is correct.
Yeah, well, are you going to go by section, or are you going to go by the entire article? That's what I'm asking.
I'll take article by article unless somebody from the floor wants to go section by section of a particular article.
Okay.
All right? Before the body now is the amendment on Article 2 of the National Constitution. For the purposes of those in the body, we are simply voting on this issue, the two words which are being substituted, completed in both cases, for conducted and for held. Those in favor of the amendment to the amendment indicate by saying aye. Those opposed? All right, we now have before us, the ayes have it. Microphone 2.
A point of order. Doesn't Rule 7 say we have to have standing vote, John? Instead of voice vote? I don't think there's a provision for a voice vote.
The chair stands corrected. The point of order is taken. It's a standing vote. Those in favor of the amendment to the amendment, please indicate by standing. Voting reps only. Those opposed? The amendment carries. Question before the body now is Article 2, the amendment to Article 2 of the National Constitution. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Recognize the delegate.
I have an amendment to the amendment.
It's in order.
I'd like to strike Section B Everybody should have a copy at the table. And I don't know if you have one up at the podium. You probably don't. I'll have somebody bring one up.
Pat, is that a complete substitution for B?
Right.
Wait till the chair gets a copy, please.
Should be there.
We don't have a view graph, so I'll read in toto. Is there a second first to the amendment? Second. Section 3B would read, a secret mail ballot shall be completed by the individual locals under the general supervision of the national office within 20 days after the convention is adjourned. The national office shall be responsible for providing guidelines according to Department of Labor regulations as to how the election will be held. If no candidate for a national office receives a majority of the votes cast, a runoff election between the two candidates receiving the most votes for that office shall be completed within within 30, is that correct?
30 days.
Within 30 days after the original tabulation of votes. I'll read it once again. A secret mail ballot election shall be completed by the individual locals under the general supervision of the national office within 20 days after the convention is adjourned. The national office shall be responsible for providing guidelines according to Department of Labor regulations as to how the election will be held. If no candidate for a national office receives a majority of the votes cast, a runoff election between the two candidates receiving the most votes for that office shall be completed within 30 days after the original tabulation of votes. The amendment is in order, has been seconded. Discussion on the amendment. Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 3.
Feeling for Minneapolis, and my feeling on this issue, is that since we've had a contract and we voted to ratify that contract and we had a good turnout and the membership showed interest in being involved in this organization, I believe they should be allowed to show the same interest in the election of their officers. Thank you.
Discussion. Recognize the delegate at microphone 2.
Mr. Chairman, Ron Levesque from Tampa Tower. I rise against the mail ballot, and I'd like to give you my rationale for it.
We're not on the mail ballot right now, Ron. We're on an amendment to the
Just a minute.
amendment. Rule you out of order. Let me just say, gentlemen and ladies, brothers and sisters, for the purposes of expediting the proceedings this morning, if there are any resolutions that you see forthcoming, I'd appreciate it so we can conduct the business this morning and move forward. If we could have copies available beforehand. We do have people for reproduction outside. We can be here for 3 days if we're going to do it this way. I suggest ahead of time, if you know in advance you have a resolution or a change that you're going to recommend, please get copies available so the chair may have them in advance.
Ron was in order because this provides for a secret mail ballot. But you want to speak against it. You want to talk about the mail ballot.
I want to talk only on the amendment right now, to it, though. He wants to take the whole total.
That's what this is. He's talking about secret mail ballot shall be conducted by individual locals.
If the delegate at microphone 2 wishes to address himself just to the amendment, which is before the body, he can do so at this time. I'll recognize him once again. Mr. Levesque. Marked it untimely then for later. We're in a discussion on the amendment to the amendment. Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 5.
John, Paul Cannon, Boston Center. Things seem to be moving along a little bit quick here, so that we all got our heads straight. What we're talking about here is that the balloting is to be done at the facility under the amendment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
The amendment to the amendment before the body is the elections to be conducted, if Mr. Zimick is correct, at the local level. Is that correct, Pat? Discussion.
Bill Clements, Miami Tower. Is there someone up there from the executive board looking at the time parameters on these proposed amendments, that they're realistic? And if they're not, would they speak for or against the time parameters on the 20 days or whatever, whether they think they can get these things out when these amendments are made? If they're not practical time limits, and I'm not saying that they are or they are not, but with somebody up there who knows how they send things out, look at that portion of it, comment on it? Would that be in order?
I think it would be in order, and just for rights of explaining, and why I asked to have the resolutions beforehand, we have just completed a board meeting where we discussed the resolutions that were before us. So I think in fairness, so that we can respond if there are changes, if we could have them beforehand, it would help expedite the business. But I think our Executive Vice President, Bob Polite, can respond to your question. Would be in order. Bob?
To address the question by Mr. Clemens, with Mr. Zimick's amendment, as much as we would have lead time to prepare notifying the locals as to the regulations and everything else and the preparations of the ballots, and checking with General Counsel, he said that a 15-day notice is proper in this particular type of election. We could make the time parameters, Bill.
Discussion on the amendment to the amendment. Recognize the delegate approaching microphone 2.
A point of clarification, is this the secret mail ballot election? Does this mean they're going to bulk mail the ballots to the local for us to conduct the election at our facilities?
Is that the intent of the amendment to the amendment? Response is yes, it is.
Thank you.
Discussion. Recognize the delegate microphone 2.
Bill Taylor, Los Angeles Terminals. I work with Pat on the amendment.
Let's bring the assembly to order so we can hear the issues.
I think also I can speak for Pat and ourselves and those of us that are in favor of the mail ballot also. The intent is, additionally, to be bulk mailed to the facilities. The facility reps conduct the balloting and the credentials check. Many, many times in our area, the Los Angeles terminal areas, with 43 facilities and people moving quite often, the apathy that we're claimed to have in that area, the non-interest that we're claimed to have in the elections, many times as the votes do not catch up with the members, the computer lists at the National are nowhere near to updated where they should be. And many people have moved already once or twice and their ballots do not catch up with them, and many of them end up in the wastebasket. So if we get the ballots to the facilities, certified ballots, and proceed under DOL prescribed procedures by the National, you as a local facility rep can conduct your own credentials check. You know who the member in good standing is at your facility. He can sign for the ballot, she can sign for the ballot, and you mail it back bulk to the National. I think like Pat said, we proved that this works with the contract ratification. The contract, as far as we know, was ratified by terminals. 60% return total. Terminals returned a great portion of that. Thank you.
The chair has asked General Counsel to address the body on the feasibility of conducting these elections at the local level in the fashion indicated by the proposed amendment. The concern that legal counsel has is the way in which individual facilities would be in a position to comply with some very intricate and complex labor relation law with respect to the conduct of union elections. This is particularly true with respect to the credentials of those people who are voting in those elections. Now, I am not saying that in the trade union movement we do not have elections at the local level conducted in this fashion. I'm just indicating to you that the responsibility then becomes that of the local facilities to comply with all rules and regulations governing the election of union officers.
I have one announcement to make before I recognize the delegate at microphone 2. Is George Ernie Brown in the room? If he is, would he please meet with Mr. Lapine over in the corner? You have a phone call that's rather urgent. Mr. Brown, recognize the delegate at microphone 2.
And we at Los Angeles Terminals only want to add to Mr. Pierre's remarks. That is exactly where we want to put the responsibility, at the facility level, the facility rep.
Discussion on the amendment to Article 2 of the National Constitution. Recognize the delegate approaching microphone 1.
Yeah, two questions.
First, in the first sentence, it says, shall be conducted by the individual locals, and you read completed. Could you correct that for me?
Excuse me?
I have the written copy here, and it says shall be conducted by the individual local within 20 days, and I think you read completed.
It was, I don't know if you missed the first amendment that was passed, which changed the word conducted to completed, and I believe the gentleman's amendment had the word completed as was previously passed.
Okay, fine.
Discussion on the issue. You ready for the question? Question before the body is the amendment to the amendment on Article 2 of the National Constitution. And since we don't have a view graph, I'll have to repeat these during the course of the day, so if you'd bear with me. A secret mail ballot election shall be completed by the individual locals under the general supervision of the national office within 20 days after the convention is adjourned. The national office shall be responsible for providing guidelines according to Department of Labor regulations as to how the elections will be held. If no candidate for national office receives a majority of the votes cast, a runoff election between the two candidates receiving the most votes for that office shall be completed within 30 days after the original tabulation of votes. Those in favor of the amendment to the amendment, please indicate by standing. Those opposed? Amendment fails to carry. Chair recognizes the delegate. Microphone 5. Just have to wait a second until he gets the switch on, Paul.
Division?
Call for division. Second. This will be the last roll call we'll have today, I'm certain, so. Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 3.
I have a question.
Questions in order.
The proposed amendment, or the amendment to the amendment that was just acted on, concerned the ballots being mailed to the individual facilities, and it's a constitutional amendment if it was passed or failed regardless. There is a resolution that concerns the same subject about ballots being mailed to the facility. If this goes down, will that resolution now be ruled non-germane? Resolution number 12.
Chair would rule that that resolution would still be in order.
The resolution would still be in order?
That's correct.
Okay.
There's a call for division. Call the roll.
Could we have quiet in the room, please? Anchorage Center. Would you please come to the microphone and make your vote? These will all be alphabetically.
Wayne Bledsoe, Anchorage Center, vote yes to the amendment.
Anchorage Center, would you give me that again, please?
Anchorage Center votes yes to the amendment.
Anchorage Terminals.
Anchorage Terminals, 52 yes, 52 no, 1 abstain.
Albuquerque Center.
Yes.
Albuquerque Terminals.
Albuquerque Terminal votes yes.
Atlanta Center.
Atlanta Center votes 393 votes, or 396 no.
Atlanta Terminals.
Atlanta Terminal 552 no.
Balboa CRAP.
Balboa CRAP votes yes.
Boston Center.
Yes.
Boston Terminals.
41 against.
Could you give that again, please?
Boston Terminals again.
401 for, 41 against.
Boston Terminals, that was 401, 404, 41. Boston Terminals, could you give me the vote one more time? Was that 404?
That'd be 403 for, 41 against.
Thank you. Chicago Center.
This is that's.
Mayor votes no.
Chicago Terminals,
No.
Cleveland Center,
Cleveland Center votes yes.
Cleveland Terminals,
Cleveland Terminal votes yes.
Denver Center,
Denver Center, yes.
Denver Terminals, Fort Worth Center,
Fort Worth Center, no.
Fort Worth Terminals,
Fort Worth Terminals votes 449 votes for.
Guam CREP,
Guam CRAP votes yes.
Honolulu Center,
Yes.
Honolulu Terminals,
Honolulu Terminals vote yes.
Houston Center,
Houston Center, no.
Houston Terminals,
Houston Terminals votes against.
against. Houston Terminals, that is against, is that correct? Thank you. Indianapolis Center,
Indianapolis Center votes no.
Indianapolis Terminals,
Indianapolis Terminals vote no.
Jacksonville Center,
Jacksonville Center votes yes.
Jacksonville Terminals,
Jacksonville Terminals votes yes.
Kansas City Center,
Kansas City Center votes yes.
Kansas City Terminals,
Kansas City Terminals no.
Los Angeles Center,
Stand by one. Los Angeles Center votes 223 no, 60 yes.
23 no and 60
yes. Los Angeles Terminals,
Los Angeles Terminals votes yes.
Memphis Center,
Memphis Center votes no.
Memphis Terminals,
Memphis Terminals, yes.
Miami Center,
Miami Center votes no.
Miami Terminals,
Miami Terminals votes yes.
Minneapolis Center,
Minneapolis Center, yes.
Minneapolis Terminals,
Minneapolis Terminal, yes.
New York Center,
New York Center, no.
New York Terminals,
New York Terminals, yes.
Oakland Center,
Oakland Center votes yes.
Oakland Terminals,
Oakland Terminals 360 no, 20 yes.
Salt Lake City Center,
Yes.
Salt Lake City Terminals,
Yes.
San Juan Center,
San Juan Center votes no.
San Juan Terminals,
San Juan Terminals vote yes.
Seattle Center,
Seattle Center votes yes.
Seattle Terminals,
Seattle Terminals 262 yes, 1 no.
Washington Center,
Washington Center votes yes.
Washington Terminals,
Washington Terminals 4044, 67 against.
thank you.
While the Credentials Committee is tabulating for the purposes of the body assembled again on an amendment to the Constitution, it simply requires a majority. When and if we get back to the main article revising the Constitution, a revision to the Constitution or an amendment to the Constitution would require 2/3. This amendment is a simple majority. The amendment before the body, whether it's amended or not, would require 2/3 of the body assembled.
I'll tell you what, I didn't figure that out.
I couldn't figure
Like Tom
whether
says,
it was-
hey, John, like Tom says, Levex rose to speak against the mail ballot and voted for this.
Well, he may still vote against the mail ballot. I mean, you just be expediting it. You can't just vote this meeting, don't forget. He may be saying, if in fact the mail ballot passes, which he's opposed to, then he'd like this concept rather than the other.
This is easier for us in the national office. But the only thing is, John, something will screw up.
The locals are the ones that are taking the responsibilities for what's happening. The heat's going to be generated down there.
Telegrams that have come in, I would recommend that instead of reading them, you might just post them on the bulletin board on the reception area, unless you want to read them. Very few people can remember what the plan is.
Where are they going to be posted, Dave? While we're waiting for the tabulation, there'll be a number of telegrams we'll receive. Rather than be reading them from the podium, we'll post them out in the reception area for anybody that wants to look at them. We've received about 4 or 5. We'll post them out in the registration area. Again, while we're waiting for the tabulation, we did not have facilities for the view graph here. And again, I'm asking, imploring you that if you have a resolution that's coming, we have reproduction availability outside. They can run off 150 copies for you in a few minutes. That'll be available to everyone that's assembled here. So if you have something that's coming up, would you please take advantage of the time to get the resolutions or the changes or amendments printed up and distributed? Ready to report?
$8,456 yes, 5,987 no, and one abstention.
Chair stands corrected. The ayes have it for the amendment to Article 2. The question now before the body is Article 2 amended the National Constitution. Discussion. Recognize the delegate at microphone 2.
John, I rise to oppose the constitutional amendment. I think that we've always said we want to take care of the small facilities. I think this would be the beginning of the end for the small facilities. It's very easy for me to, in the center with almost 400 members, to line the guys up and get them to vote. I think if the mail ballot goes to the guys' homes, the wives are going to throw it away with the junk mail and what have you, and I don't think it's good for the organization.
Discussion's in order. Recognize the delegate at microphone 2.
Ron Levesque, Tampa Tower. I rise against the mail ballot. My main reasons are 2. The mail ballot would definitely favor any incumbent. You would not have a set time when the candidates could get together like we have today. If you were running for vice president or against John Layden, you would have no chance out in the field to campaign effectively against him because you do not have the time, the money, and the wherewithal to conduct the campaign. At least with what we're doing now, you can come to the convention and express your views and get known. You can go to your regional seminars and get known. Secondly, I want to see everybody's vote counted. If the voting reps will do their jobs and if the facility representatives will do their jobs, the voting reps talking down to their facility reps, who have in turn conducted their local tallies and polls on the candidates and the issues, will then return this information to the voting rep, who will see that all votes are cast. If the voting rep does not take the initiative to accomplish this, then the facility rep certainly should. The main thing is, of the 14,400 some votes, they all get cast the way we're doing it now. The way proposed, probably 1/3 or less of the votes will be cast. Thank you.
I'll tell him when it goes. Recognize the delegate microphone, too.
In support of the proposed amendment to the voting process, I submit the following argument. While these ideas are not new in our society, they are fundamental to our evolution as a great nation. The voting procedure as it now stands, and is proposed to continue, seems to limit the desired accountability of the regional and national officers through the vote. Unless the elected officers can be forced to respond to the desires of the membership, their power can be used with no restriction. In our society, we have long recognized that the vote, in conjunction with a strong national constitution, can and does protect the rights, as well as our voice, our assent, and displeasure with current policy. The PATCO Constitution defines the voting process. In the present and proposed form, very little protection is available to the individual voter. His desires through this vote may be communicated through his facility representative to the terminal or center voting representative. The voting rep may then vote as dictated, or he may not. As in the language of the air traffic controller, words like should and may are optional procedures. It is interesting to note that words similar to shall and must appear in virtually every other article in the Constitution. In addition, there is no procedure spelled out how and where or in what manner the area voting rep must vote. How is the vote tabulated if the vote is to be conducted as a word-of-mouth procedure? How can I exercise my individual rights if someone is up the voting line, chooses to ignore me or modify my decisions? These are troublesome questions. Even the device for the election challenge has no teeth or force. I feel that a voting procedure should be established that accounts for each and every vote cast for its officers. This idea also suggests that the position of an area voting representative is useless. As a possible procedure, the national or regional votes could be handled by secret ballot and mailed to the local facility rep for tabulation. And mailed to a third party for tabulation. In this system, the ballots would be available in the event of challenge or recount, as if a recount is necessary. It would then be possible to publish the voting figures and thereby alert the membership how the vote has gone. To summarize this point, I can say that a specific system of voting spelled out in clear and accountable terms is necessary. Each voter should have his say, and his say should be recorded. In this manner, the national or regional officers could be accountable directly to the membership and not just to a few selected people like the voting representatives. It is interesting to note that even the electoral college system used during the days of George Washington was more advanced than the present PATCO procedure. Furthermore, one of the chief reasons that that system is still perpetuated in this country is that it benefits those in power most. Furthermore, if a national or regional officers are to have unlimited tenure of office, the vote will be the only way to ensure that the officers can be removed. On this point, perhaps it would be well to limit the number of terms of office. While it might seem that one is doing his job, there is much talent around us and many new ideas to be viewed. In the Western region alone, a high number of well-qualified candidates ran for the office of Regional Vice President in this election. These candidates
Gentleman's
and the
time has
membership...
expired, but the chair will let you continue. But we are limited to 5 minutes on the discussion. We'll let you continue in this.
Thank you. This accountability gives our voting process credibility and our union credibility, as well as legitimizing our officers' power. The idea of a popular ballot has been discussed pro and con within PATCO for several years. The voting reps have continued the present system on the basis that apathy is the rule in PATCO membership rather than the exception. I would point out that past job actions prove that apathy can rapidly turn into a cohesive force overnight. This change in interest is also demonstrated during voting periods. What I am saying is apathy is only the result of poor leadership and motivation on the part of our officers. When they needed the help, they got it. They can get our support constantly if they want it. Our voting process should not be based on faulty leadership. Rather than beat this point to death, I will close with the following statement. I believe that we all know that the popular vote is right, and I mean right down to the bones. No spacious argument concerning voter apathy can change the fundamental truth. We in PATCO should force what is right in our union. Historically, popular voting has preserved our freedoms and way of life. Our union, as a subset of that society, should seek to preserve this time-proven method rather than distort it. Thank you.
Let me remind the delegates again that we have a 5-minute limitation on discussion, and I would appreciate it if the delegates would limit their remarks to only the issue before them, which is the mail ballot issue, Amendment 2. Recognize the delegate at microphone 4.
Bob Stevens from Little Rock Tower. I rise to speak in favor of this amendment. Until you give the little man, the man out there that's going to make the decisions for this organization in the future, the right to vote, whether he wants to cast that ballot or not is his decision, but give him the right, and give him the right to make that decision on who he wants to support for your office. If we don't do that, later on, you're going to call on the man in a time of need, and he's not going to support because he didn't get the right to support the candidate of his choice. This is, to me, is one of the most important issues at this convention, is the one man, one vote. And I urge everybody to give it serious consideration, and if it's possible, vote for the amendment, allow the man the right to cast his ballot or throw it in the trash can if he wants to. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 3.
Jack Seddon, New York Center. I rise opposed to the amendment, and I will explain why. For approximately 10 years, this organization has been against a mail ballot as a whole, basically because it's very easy for the centers to organize and get the people that they want in office. I say to the terminals that are backing this particular position, if you want to go back to a center-controlled organization, then by all means, get a mail ballot. I say to the centers, if you want to control this organization, then back the amendment. If you want to continue some type of a checks and balances within this organization, then I think that we should continue with the process that we have today.
Recognize the delegate at microphone 1, and before Gary speaks, because of the number of speakers that want to talk on the issue, I will, after recognizing the gentleman at microphone 1, go pro and con so we get some balance in the debate. Recognize the delegate at microphone 1.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Gary Eads, Kansas City Center. Brothers and sisters, I've been to a few of these conventions, and I think I know most of you. What we're talking about here is theory. I'm not going to tell you theory, I'm going to tell you fact. I came to this convention, I'm also running for an office, and I put it in my platform that I am opposed to the mail ballot. I am not opposed to the mail ballot anymore because of what is taking place at this convention. I am running for an office. I am being denied votes because of our present system. To my brothers and sisters in the Southwest, my apologies. I do support you now. I'm there. I know what's coming down.
The chair will recognize a speaker against the mail ballot. There's a call for the question. Because of the chair will rule that because of the magnitude of the issue and the number of speakers that are up would overrule the call for the question, and let's continue with the debate. Those speaking against the mail ballot, recognize the delegate at microphone 6.
I agree with my colleague from Little Rock. My name is Dick Swager from Washington Tower, by the way. I'd like to see the little man get his vote too, and I'm bound and determined that he's going to get that vote. The only way that I'm sure he's going to get that vote is I'm going to ask him. And as his voting representative, I'm going to write that vote down and I'm going to bring it to the convention. The man who doesn't send in a mail ballot is like the man that doesn't attend a meeting. he still pays his dues. And as leaders, we should make sure that he gets his vote cast, whether he does not send in a mail ballot or not. When I come here to the convention, I come with 471 votes, and I'm going to make sure that every one of those get cast just the way those people want them cast. If we allow it to be in the form of a mail ballot, we've lost votes. Someone said that they like the way the United States runs its elections. I've lived in Washington, D.C. for 15 years, and I tell you, it stinks. It's about time this organization got up with its leaders and let the leaders lead the organization, and that's what we're here for.
Recognize the speaker for the mail ballot. For the mail ballot. Recognize the gentleman, microphone 3.
Bruce Larson, Minneapolis Center. I am for Article 2. It is the right of each member.
Bruce, would you come a little closer to the mic, please?
It is the right of each member to cast a vote for the representative of his choice. The real issue in one man, one vote is what is the power of the voting rep? And we don't want to discuss that, but they're afraid of what we're going to lose here on the floor. And not always are the votes cast realistically. The grassroots does not gain strength if the election of its officers is not the reflection of its membership. If the membership is complacent, the present system only casts his vote. It does not remove his complacency. What we have to do is allow each member to elect the representative of his choice. And the present system only adds to the complacency of the member in the field.
Against the mail ballot. Recognize the delegate, microphone 1.
Rex Campbell, Denver Center. I think this is one of the first time I've heard people concerned about themselves having too much power and where that's going to lie because of a mail ballot. The truth of the matter is the mail ballot will dilute the power that resides in the bigger facilities or the centers per se right now. Right now under your system, if 50% plus one in that facility votes to cast it as a block, it's cast as a block. Those 49% who may be on the other side of the issue, they are cast for the issue. Under the mail ballot system, they're going to have to collect all the ballots in the center, and that in itself may not be such an easy task, but they're not going to be able to write down how the man writes that ballot or how he votes on that ballot. And that's precisely what you're talking about. It will not add to the power of the centers. It will dilute it because you're going to abrogate or get rid of this 50% plus one. So I don't really believe that's a concern in the centers. The concern would be we're going to lose power.
Against the mail ballot. Recognize the delegate, microphone 2.
I've been to several conventions. I've held several offices. Everywhere I go, I get from memberships brought up to me. The leaders got to be responsible to the membership. My responsibility as a leader in this organization is always brought to my attention by my members. I think it's time we recognize that the membership has a responsibility to itself. And it's time that we should free these people to start exercising that responsibility. I speak in favor of the mail ballot. I call for the question.
Chair recognizes there are 2 speakers. We're limited to that, and then a call for the question be in order. Go ahead. At microphone 4.
Carl Settle, Terminal Voting Representative, Fort Worth Terminals. I conducted a mail ballot for our election. Our members want a mail ballot. I have 33 facilities. 30 facilities came back with a vote. We are here to represent the membership of PATCO. The members want the vote.
Delegate at microphone 6. Microphone 6.
Yes, Tom Galloway, Washington Center. I wanted to address what the gentleman said about the centers not turning the votes out. I was present when the last voting and vote counting was done in Washington, and it seems strange if you don't think the centers can turn out the vote, that centers turned out the vote to the man all in agreement, probably 98, 99% with just a few abstentions or a few disagreements. Usually at a center, if the local membership or the local leaders decide on the issues and they put the word out, they can get almost every vote to the man to back them. So if you don't think this will bring more votes to the center, more power to the center, you're crazy.
Last on the discussion, recognize the delegate at microphone 2.
Los Angeles Terminals, as everyone knows, Western Region is not only very politically in much favor of this, but it's becoming a very emotional issue after all these years, as it is with Southwest. So I won't get emotional. All I want to say is a couple of facts. As LA Terminal voting representative, I represent 718 votes, 43 facilities, 35 of which are cabs, many level 1s and level 2s. This year, we have a 6, now a 5-member race for the VP candidacy. In that 5-member race, we've had interest, the LA Terminal rep, along with a lot of help from people. We spent $1,300 talking about this, communicating about it, talking in the facilities. Candidates have gone grassroots for a year, 8 months they've been out in the field. As of this morning, we are prepared tomorrow to vote 93% signed, locked-in ballots as we ballot our area. 93% tomorrow for one or all of those 5 candidates. I have 22 discretion votes so far. Those are facts from our race this year. And I submit that if those type of races are going on in areas like Cleveland or the Great Lakes or New York, where they never have before, you people too will see split and interest, and you won't see the beloved bloc come in on issues that we're talking about.
Chair recognizes the call for the question. Question before the Assembly is the constitutional amendment as modified to Article 2 of the National Constitution. Those in favor indicate by standing. This is on the amendment to the National Constitution that was further amended. I'll read it in toto so that you know what you're voting on. The amendment now reads to Article 2 of the National Constitution, National Offices, Section 3, Election of Officers. The new Section 3 is the previous Section 3 renumbered to Section 4. All national officers shall be elected by the membership. Regional vice presidents shall be elected by the membership of the respective regions. The amended change is Section B. A secret mail ballot election shall be completed by the individual locals under the general supervision of the national office within 20 days after the convention is adjourned. The national office shall be responsible for providing guidelines according to Department of Labor regulations as to how the elections will be held. If no candidate for a national office receives a majority of the votes cast, a runoff election between the 2 candidates receiving the most votes for that office shall be completed within 30 days after the original tabulation of votes. A vote in the affirmative supports the amendment to the National Constitution, requires 2/3 to change the Constitution. Those in favor indicate by standing. Those opposed? The ayes have it. A division has been called for. A division has been called for. Bill, would it be in order without the mics on?
May I have order in the room, please?
If we have order in the room, we might be able to expedite the roll call. If we have order in the room, you can indicate your vote from your position without going to a microphone if we have enough order in the room. Let's try it once and see how we proceed.
If you will, give it loud and clear if we're not going to the microphones, please. Anchorage Center.
It isn't necessary. We can try it without the mic and see how we do. It may expedite
Anchorage
it.
Center votes yes.
Yes is the vote.
Anchorage Terminals. All right, Anchorage Terminals, if you would, go to the microphone. I couldn't hear it.
Anchorage Terminals, 74 yes, 31 no.
Thank you. Albuquerque Center. Albuquerque Terminals. Atlanta Center. Atlanta Terminals.
Atlanta Terminals, 370, no. 182, yes.
Balboa C-Rap. Boston Center. Boston Terminals.
Boston Terminals, 233 yes, 211 no.
Chicago Center. Chicago Terminals.
23 yes, 502 no.
Cleveland Center. Cleveland Terminals. Denver Center. Denver Terminals.
No. What you got, Bob? What you got?
John.
Fort Worth Center.
Point of order at microphone 5.
Could we have the Credentials Committee repeat the vote as it comes out?
Yes, that'd be in order. There's a request to repeat the vote by the Credentials Committee.
Certainly. Fort Worth Center was yes. Fort Worth Terminals. Fort Worth Terminals, yes. Guam C-Rap. Guam C-Rap.
Yes.
Guam C-Rap, yes. Honolulu Center. Honolulu Center, yes. Honolulu Terminals. Honolulu Terminals, yes. Houston Center.
Houston Center, 224, 137 no.
Houston Center is 224 yes, 137 no. Houston Terminals. Houston Terminals, yes. Indianapolis Center.
Yes.
Indianapolis Center, yes. Indianapolis Terminals. Indianapolis Terminals, no. Jacksonville Center. Jacksonville Center, yes. Jacksonville Terminals. Jacksonville Terminals, yes. Kansas City Center. Kansas City Center, yes. Kansas City Terminal. Yes. Miami Center.
303 yes, 1 no.
Miami Center, 303 yes, 1 no. Miami Terminals. Miami Terminals is 49 yes, 353 no. Minneapolis
Center.
Center.
The call for a second. There was a question raised on the count for Indianapolis. It didn't jive. Would you check that, please?
Indianapolis Center.
Houston Center was the one in question.
Houston Center is the one in question. Houston Center, I show as all right, Houston Center. Houston Center, would you please repeat your vote? I show you 357 total votes.
224, 137 opposed.
220 yes. That's the deal. That's
Correction. Is that 224 yes or and 137 no?
220 yes. 220 yes.
Is that 200 and quiet in the room, please?
220.
220. All right, thank you. 220 yes, 137 no for Houston Center. Minneapolis Center. 290 yes, 1 no. Minneapolis Terminals. Minneapolis Terminals, no. New York Center.
New York Center, no.
New York Center, no. New York Terminals. New York Terminals, no. Oakland Center. Oakland Center, yes. Oakland Terminals. Oakland Terminals, yes. Salt Lake City Center. Salt Lake City Center, yes. Salt Lake Terminals. Salt Lake Terminals, yes. San Juan Center. San Juan Center, no. San Juan Terminals. San Juan Terminals, yes. Seattle Center. Seattle Center, yes. Seattle Terminals. Seattle Terminals, 262 yes, 1 no. Washington Center. Washington Center was no. Washington Terminals.
Washington Terminals, 3144, 157 against.
Washington Terminals, 314 yes, 157 no. Thank you.
While a tally is being completed, the number required for the two-thirds is 9630. Copy.
Right. Now, Forrest drew up those particular sections. They're going to have to be reincorporated. Okay. I'm going to tell him just to have one off.
Well, you better see. In other words, if the mail ballot fails, right?
We've got to put back in.
Why don't you ask him to do that in the interim so we're ready for it when it comes, okay?
I'll make sure.
Yeah. You want to ask him to come up?
Okay. He's got it already.
Or he does? Okay. Article 2 on the tenure then would fail, no? You're saying that's where he's got changes? The next one up?
Yeah, this one would be gone.
That's gone, okay.
If it fails, that's gone.
It's no longer before the body then. Bill. Yeah. All right, if it goes down, then you make this. I'll just recognize you, and then you just simply state as indicated yesterday, this is no longer germane. Proceed to Article 6. Okay, I'll recognize you for that.
They got a typist out there?
There should be. Is there a typist outside? Yeah. Could I ask you for a cup of coffee, Missy? Make it sweet. We should think it's what third would it say. The next one. Later.
It's ready, John.
Could I have order on the floor? Yeses, 8,801. Noes, 5,643. Thank you.
The amendment to Article 2 fails to carry. That's twice the chair has been correct this morning. The chair now recognizes the chairman of the Constitution Committee.
Mr. Chairman, parliamentary inquiry. As I understand Robert's rules, if we go to reconsider, does it has to be today, or can it be the next meeting being tomorrow?
Today.
We would have to ask for reconsideration today.
That's correct. Chair recognizes the chairman of the Constitution Committee.
As I mentioned yesterday when we went through the rationale, the committee rationale on each article, I stated then that if Section 3 of Article 2 went down, Section 4 goes with it. So Section 4 is no longer germane.
The next proposed amendment before the body is Article 6, proposed amendment to the National Constitution. Article 6, Section 6 reads, membership shall not include any person who voluntarily accepts any temporary, exceeding 120 days, or permanent position outside of the bargaining unit as defined under Executive Order 11491 as amended, or as defined in Article 2, Section 2 of the agreement between the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization affiliated with the Marine Engineers Beneficial Association, AFL-CIO, and the Federal Aviation Administration, Department of Transportation. This restriction does not apply to an individual who has a temporary medical disqualification. There's no second required. Discussion on the issue. Chair recognizes Delegate at microphone 3.
Is this on? Okay. On July 20th, 1972, the Assistant Secretary of Labor for Labor Management
Identify yourself,
Relations-
please, sir. Identify yourself at the mic first, please.
Sorry, Bob Wilson, Cleveland Center, Local 203. On July 20th, 1972, the Assistant Secretary for Labor Management Relations issued his ruling in case number 173, which involved the representation petition filed by PATCO, and he wrote in part, and I quote, noting particularly the role of EPDS in evaluating the job performances of developmental controllers and in effectively determining the future job status of such employees, I find that the EPDS are supervisors within the meaning of the executive order. Accordingly, I shall exclude them from the unit found appropriate. An otherwise law-abiding citizen who robs a bank once a year in order to pay his winter heating bills may be termed a temporary felon. However, if the law catches him, he's still going to go to jail. Likewise, adding the word temporary to EPDS does not change the duties and responsibilities of that position, and the person accepting this position becomes more closely aligned with management than with the union. Also, PATCO National has requested the members not to evaluate peers. The very title of the job, EPDS, calls for exactly that, evaluation. Permitting EPDSs to retain union membership and evaluate a bargaining unit member is a classic example of conflict of interest. The argument has been brought forth that a person may have a family problem which could be alleviated by working straight shifts with weekends off, or an individual has a slight medical problem which could be cleared up if away from traffic for a period of time, or a temporary assignment is a welcome relief from the pressures of traffic, or the person has an innate ability to instruct. I grant that these are valid arguments for taking an EPDS position, but in doing so, a person must realize he or she is no longer a member of the bargaining unit and must sever all ties with PATCO during the duration of the detail. Some members are afraid that once out, former members won't pay the initiation fee required for readmittance. But the difference between dues for a year or greater and paying the initiation fee is not that great. Some say that a developmental's first contact is the EPDS, and a negative attitude could be ingrained in that trainee by an anti-union instructor. I submit that it is the job of the facility representative and every believer in PATCO to extol and laud PATCO and show this trainee just how valuable PATCO is. Still others say that temporary EPDS is a way for an individual to gain points to become a supervisor, and if expelled from PATCO would harbor anti-union animus and would not be objective to PATCO. In answer to that, I say that PATCO was founded to help improve controller working conditions and not as a stepping stone into management. Furthermore, if a person decides to become a supervisor, don't kid yourself into believing he will be kind and benevolent to the union. A supervisor is a supervisor is a supervisor. And if he has to choose between hurting the union and losing his job, he's going to line up on the side of his fellow management pukes and try to do you in. It has also been brought out that if a person doesn't rejoin PATCO, we stand to lose a lot of revenue. This is scary. Scary not because we stand to lose the revenue, but scary because, in essence, we are saying we as a union do not offer enough enticements for a person to become or remain a member. If this is true, we better get to work collectively and do our utmost to make being a member of PATCO a better prospect than being a non-member. In closing, let me say that in San Diego, PATCO decided against supervisors holding associate membership. Let's do the same thing for temporary EPDSs and keep PATCO as a controllers union. Thank you.
The chair, by the way, misreading the top of Section 7, which is the reinstatement provision. I'll read that so that the deliberation of the body is for the total of Article 6, the proposed amendment to the Constitution. Section 7, the reinstatement. Membership in PATCO shall be reinstated to those persons affected by the provisions of Article 6, Section 6, only after payment of all local and national initiation fees which are in effect at the time of reinstatement. The discussion is on the totality of Article 6. Let's continue with the discussion. Recognize the delegate at microphone 3.
Mr. Chairman, Larry Phillips, Annapolis Center. I'd like to request that the two sections be considered individually.
Objection to the body to considering the two sections independently? No objection. We'll revert back, and what before the body now is Article 6. Recognize the delegate at microphone 5.
I have an objection by dealing with the two articles, or two sections separately. We don't have the full impact of what the final vote will be on the Section 1.
For the benefit of the chair, then I'll poll the representatives present. Those in favor of taking the totality of the articles, Section 6 and Section 7, indicate by standing. Those that want to take it one section at a time indicate by standing. We'll take the article in toto. We are now considering before the body Article 6, Section 6 and 7. Let's continue discussion. Recognize the delegate at microphone 3.
Bob Meyer, the Great Lakes Regional Vice President. On behalf of the Executive Board, I would like to express the opinion of the Executive Board regarding this particular modification. The Board feels that we're talking about approximately 350 people right now. And if it's passed, you're talking about 350 people now, 350 people later on, and it would be a cumulative effect as far as kicking people out of the union. So the board does not support this particular amendment. Thank you.
Chair recognizes delegate at microphone 2.
Tim Benencosa, Finance Committee Chairman. The National Finance Committee is against the amendment. In agreement with the last addressee and the first, it will cost money. It is a cumulative. The first year could cost a loss of dues of approximately $135,000. In discussing it in committee, as it was not addressed to the committee at all, we felt that if you're going to mete out punishment, the benefits aren't good enough that we're going to punish them if we kick them out. You're cutting off your nose to spite your face because we lose money, we lose members, and the benefits are received by the non-members anyway.
Chair recognizes delegate at microphone 3.
In the words of my good friend Jimmy Thompson, if you walk like a duck and you quack like a duck and you look like a duck, you're a goddamn duck.
Thank you, Mr. Mamoni. Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 2.
March 25th, 1970, I walked. I got a brother that walked too. He's an EPDS. He's 53 years old. He doesn't have quite enough time to retire. If you kick his ass out of the organization, you might as well kick me too. You think I could look at that guy in the face one time, knowing what we went through in 1970 and 71 when we were on the street?
Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 1.
I think that what everyone should really consider is that we do have the opportunity to address the new people as they come in the facility. And the way it seems to work at my facility is we go in, we get our time, and we say, you know, we want you to join our union. And we give them a lot of reasons and look like we got a real fancy film to show them now. But it doesn't matter. If you got a fox in the hen house in there, he's going to run them off. And that's exactly what happens at our facility. We have one non-member EPDS, and every class that comes through that guy, we cannot pick a member out of that class until we get them on the boards and start turning the screws. And I'd like you to vote against that particular amendment because you're just not going to have the same clout with the new people. Thank you.
Recognize the delegate at microphone 2.
Ron Levesque, Tampa Tar. I speak against the amendment. I don't like carrot chases any more than the rest of you, but I'm a realist also. These jobs are going to be filled by somebody. I don't want to lose any members or dues for the organization, and I'd like to call for the question.
Chair will continue discussion. Recognize the delegate at microphone 3.
Mr. Chairman.
And again, would you please identify name and facility before you go into the discussion? Microphone 3.
Larry Phillips, in Annapolis Center. I have an amendment to the amendment, Section 7. I believe you have a copy.
An amendment to the amendment is in order.
Those individuals who are temporarily excluded from membership in PATCO, as provided for in Section 6, shall not be required to pay any initiation fee for membership reinstatement.
Let me interrupt for just 1 second. That amendment does require a second. Is there a second to the amendment to the amendment? Second. Proceed, please.
And I'll start from scratch.
Okay.
Those individuals who are temporarily excluded from membership in PATCO, as provided for in Section 6, shall not be required to pay any initiation fee for membership reinstatement if membership is reinstated within 30 days after the individual returns to the bargaining unit.
I'll read the amendment again. The amendment to the amendment is those individuals who are temporarily excluded from membership to PATCO as provided for in Section 6 shall not be required to pay any initiation fee for membership reinstatement if the membership is reinstated within 30 days after the individual returns to the bargaining unit. There's an amendment to the amendment. Discussion has been seconded. The maker of that amendment wish to give the rationale. Recognize the delegate approaching microphone 3. This copy's over here, Bob.
Rationale simply, first of all, I have no qualms at all about not supporting people who are chasing a carrot. That doesn't concern me.
Let's have order in the room, please.
What does concern me is a situation where a guy may be forced to make the ultimate choice between PATCO and his family, whether for medical problems, family problems, whatever. If that happens, our organization is going to lose. If we kick the guy out for a year, even though the initiation fee, $500, and the dues come out within a few bucks of each other, it's going to be the principal involved. The guy may have supported the organization since its inception, been put on the street. He gets off the boards for a year and he comes back, and we're going to penalize him by forcing him to pay an initiation fee. I don't feel it's right.
Discussion on the amendment to the amendment. Recognize delegate microphone 1.
Pat Doyle, Oakland Center. Mr. Chairman, I speak against the amendment for the following reason. In 1976, the assembled delegates to San Diego chose one category of membership, active. And I'll briefly read what the Constitution Committee's rationale on that was. So this would include only those persons actively engaged in the control and separation of aircraft and those persons who are becoming training to be an air traffic controller. I'm not going to have the people in my facility pay the freight for an EPDS and a duck while he's under PATCO's wing and being protected by management.
Recognize the delegate at microphone 5.
Mr. Chairman, Norbert Cordero, Honolulu Center. If this article goes through, even with the reinstatement, it effectively cuts off the dues for 1 year from all those guys who are EPDSs. So you either do away with the article or take out the reinstatement. You got no choice.
Recognize the delegate at microphone 2.
Les Hall, Los Angeles Center. I speak in favor of the amendment. We're not asking that we keep the EPDSs in the union. We recognize the fact that while they're in that position, they are serving management. We don't want them to, we don't want them in the union. We don't want them coming to our meetings. We don't want them voting. But at the same time, we don't want to bar these guys from ever coming back, and that initiation fee is going to do it. So I'm opposed to kicking them out and making them pay an initiation fee.
Recognize the delegate at microphone 3.
Legal question, John, directed to Pierre, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
If an individual under this amendment is what they're saying that he does, he's out of the union. But if he wants to come in after his tour of duty with management, he comes in without paying. My question is, let's say there is somebody that has not been a union member for umpty-ump years, regardless of what the situation is. He wants to join the union and he's required to pay an initiation fee. Now we have another individual that left by his choice, the union, wants to join the union once again. Can we charge an initiation fee on one hand and not charge it on the other and be legally correct?
Yes, you can.
Discussion on the amendment to the amendment for Article 6. Recognize the delegate approaching microphone 5.
Bill Kawahilo, Honolulu Center. Honolulu Center has supported all the job actions to include the reclass. Because of the reclass, we as a GS-12 facility will have our EPDSs downgraded from 13 to a 12. Therefore, if one takes the job in the EPDS, one's looking for points. Points for what? You better believe. Points to gain an advantage to bid on a boss job. Let's get rid of them.
Delegate at microphone 1.
Mr. Chairman, Paul Amato, San Juan Center. I'd like to speak against this amendment for the following reasons. These temporary positions, in the past, it's been my experience that these persons have provided a valuable source of information to this organization. Such things as system error review boards, and often provide us timely information before the information is given to the FAA. They pay dues, and they require virtually no representation or no burden to the local unit whatsoever. And it seems to me if they want to pay the money to the union, it's to our advantage to accept that. Okay, number 3, we all know that this is a young man's business. Everybody knows that. But what happens to the senior guy? This past year we had a controller in San Juan Center that was out on the street. He had been a national officer during the sick out. He was out on the street for a long time. He was in a flight service station. They finally got him back into the system in San Juan Center as a controller. Well, he had a lot of problems. That man was a very valuable source of information. And a guy like that, you're giving him 2 choices. What are you going to give him? He's either out, or he goes out, he punches the button, he goes out on second career. And if they could utilize those people to their advantage, they'd still be working for us. I'm talking about Terry Brennan, if you guys don't know him. He'd have taken a EPDS temporary job, and he would have worked for the union in that job. He would have helped us. Instead, he's in second career. That's all they have, and I'm against it.
Recognize the delegate at microphone 3.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions, one for General Counsel. Previously, he made a statement that we can charge one person initiation fee and not charge the other. What is the difference between an individual who accepts a supervisory position as a GS-13, bids into a 14 facility to get a GS-14 controller? Is he charged an initiation fee to rejoin the union? Right,
Yes.
he has left the bargaining unit for a year to accept a supervisory position and is charged initiation fee to rejoin the bargaining unit. What the hell is the difference between him and the guy that goes upstairs as an EPDS?
Well, gentlemen, it's not for me to decide the question that you're facing, whether there is or is not a difference between the two. I'm saying that under the law, there can be made a reasonable argument that there is a distinction between the situations, and so long as there is a reasonable distinction between the two, then an organization in any position is free to charge one an initiation fee and another not. You have to have a reason to distinguish between the two, and I think I'm hearing arguments on both sides of the case, which leads me to the conclusion that there is a difference of opinion. There is a reasonable ground on both sides, and that being the case, you can reasonably distinguish between the two, and you can go either way. The answer is yes, you have that authority to do it if you choose to do it.
Discussion. Recognize the gentleman at microphone 2.
As the gentleman from Pacific Region pointed out, these guys that go up get points. It amounts to about $19 a point. When they want to come back down, because of the enlightenment that they receive, the education they receive, they realize that they made a mistake and they want to come back to our outfit, $500 is a small price to pay for good sense.
Any further discussion? The question before the body is the amendment to the amendment. It reads, those individuals, and it's Section 7 only. The amendment to the amendment, Section 7, would now read, those individuals who are temporarily excluded from membership in PATCO as provided for in Section 6 shall not be required to pay any initiation fee for membership reinstatement if membership is reinstated within 30 days after the individual returns to the bargaining unit. Those in favor of supporting the amendment to the amendment indicate by standing. Those opposed? The amendment to the amendment fails to carry. The question before the body now is the previous amendment to the National Constitution, Article 6, Section 6 and 7. Any further discussion? Recognize delegate microphone 3.
Senator, I speak in favor of the proposed amendment. For years since this organization was founded, I think one of the things that we prided ourselves in is that we were air traffic controllers. When the original contract was signed and the Department of Labor made the decision who was in our bargaining unit, they did not include EPDSs, specifically because under the executive order they performed certain functions that they didn't qualify for. Now, I think the question that has to be decided is, are we a union or we're not a union? If the EPDSs want to have a union, then let them get up off their ass and form their own union. I don't think we should be doing it for them. Money is not a factor. If you've got people that want to take the step into an EPDS position, then they're doing it with their eyes wide open. You've either got an organization here that is more attractive for them, which it sure as hell is, or they're doing it with their eyes open and going to some place that they feel management is making more attractive to them. If you want to make a decision for them to give them their apples and their oranges both together, then you go ahead and defeat this resolution.
Recognize the delegate at microphone 6.
I wonder, one of the questions that hasn't been brought up, at least I haven't heard it, how can we take people's money when we can't represent them? I think it puts us in a funny situation when they're out of the bargaining unit, but we're still collecting their money, but we're not able to really represent them. The other thing is, at Washington Center, EPDS is 2-year term. The $500 they pay, while they're up there, we got reclassified, we got upgraded. They come back down on the floor. Everything that happens while they're up there, they get when they come back on the floor, even if they pay the initiation fee. We pay more by being on the floor. We pay $600 and some for the 2 years. It's cheap. They're making out to come back and pay the $500. I don't want to let them come back free. This organization, I keep hearing talk about, you know, there are guys that did so much before, and now they're EPDSs. I hear it from supervisors that a lot of the people that started this organization are now supervisors, and you should care about them. I thought the organization is for people that are on the floor, that are controlling airplanes, and I thought that's what we were here for.
Recognize the delegate at microphone 5.
Paul Cannon, Boston Center. I speak in opposition to the amendment. We've again got ourselves embroiled in an emotional issue, and I'm afraid that we're dealing with it again emotionally. I ask my brothers and sisters to deal with this rationally. We're going to lose money, and we're going to lose members, a lot of them. I ask you to vote no on this amendment.
Recognize the delegate at microphone 3.
John Polino, Cleveland Center. We proposed this amendment to the Constitution. The National Executive Board has argued against it on kind of 350 members. People have said we're kicking people out. We're not kicking anybody out. This man goes upstairs on his own. His dues are terminated by the FAA. We're not throwing anybody out. There's not going to be 350 EPDSs. If the union policy is when they go upstairs, their dues are terminated, and when they're required to come back to the floor, they're required to pay an initiation fee. That is of their own choice. When we go into a job action sometime in the future or whenever we have to, where is this individual going to be? While you're out on the street, he's going to be backing you up with overtime. Thank you.
Recognize the delegate at microphone 5. I'm sorry, microphone 2. Timmy, I'm sorry.
Tim Benengosa, Finance Committee. Personally, I take issue with the fact that the delegate from New York states that it's not going to cost this organization money. I stated before that it is cumulative. Cumulative. The first year, under the approximation or approximate cost, is $135,000. If those people don't get back in, the next year it costs you $270,000. If those people, the 2 years, don't get back in and you lose $135,000 more, it comes to $405,000. But you have already lost the first guys that you kicked out, the second guys you kicked out, and the third. So the fourth year is going to cost you $810,000, and that's almost 25% of our national budget in 4 years.
Recognize the delegate at microphone 3.
Larry Phillips, Annapolis Center. The question's been raised, are we in fact a union? The union is made up based on the strength and support of all its members. Data system specialists, area specialists, EPDSs, the guys working the boards. If this amendment is passed, it would seem to me the next logical step would be to go to the Department of Labor and ask them for a ruling regarding area specialists and data system specialists. EPDSs are members. As it stands now, even though we can't represent them, we've allowed them to pay their dues, retain membership in the organization. I see no reason to change the current practice.
Let me just continue with the debate. We have 3 up at the mics, and let's limit it. Recognize the delegate at microphone 6.
Mr. Chairman, my name is David Trick. I'm a member of PATCO Local 305, and I rise to speak against the amendment. I do not like EPDSs. I don't like all the other things that they've tacked onto our bargaining unit or hang on to our bargaining unit. I like controllers. But there's one thing I don't like more than EPDSs. I don't like the way the FAA currently trains air traffic controllers. I don't delude myself by thinking that the average guy that leaves the boards to go upstairs to the training command is a hard PATCO member and carries the philosophy with him. I'm not a fool. I've seen too many of them. but I do believe that we should maintain a PATCO presence in the training departments.
Delegate at microphone 5.
Dave Fitzgerald, Anchorage Terminal. As a point of clarification, so far we've been talking basically EPDSs. And we did have an isolated case in Alaska where a person left the terminal and went to a flight service, joined NATS, and then came back. Would it be included under this or not?
My understanding that this does not address itself to that situation. That would be something under the affiliates and what would happen in the relationship coming back in. This does not pertain to that. Is the chair correct in that interpretation of the proposed amendment which emanated from Cleveland? John?
If I understand it correctly, he's talking about an individual that has left the air traffic control field, went to a flight service station, and is returning. The issue here does not address itself to that. My understanding of that situation is he comes back into the bargaining unit. From being in an FSS, he has 1 year to join when he's hired back into the FAA. After that 1 year, he has to pay an initiation fee.
Discussion on the amendment to Article 6. Microphone 4, please.
I have a question, Carl Settle, Fort Worth Terminals. In reference to if this would happen to pass to our brothers and sisters who are already in these positions, will they be allowed to return without paying the penalty?
Would Mr. Polino answer that, please? Microphone 3.
As this resolution is adopted, any person who is presently serving in the EPDS position has the opportunity to finish their detail or their assignment and then return to the floor. This only covers individuals who voluntarily accept a position outside of the bargaining unit after this amendment is passed.
All right, there's been a call for the question. Seeing no other speakers at the microphones, question before the body is the amendment to Article 6 of the National Constitution, Section 6 and Section 7. Membership shall not include any person who voluntarily accepts any temporary, exceeding 120 days, or permanent position outside of the bargaining unit as defined under Executive Order 11491 as amended, or as defined in Article 2, Section 2 of the agreement between the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization, affiliated with the Marine Engineers Beneficial Association, AFL-CIO, and the Federal Aviation Administration, Department of Transportation. This restriction does not apply to an individual who has a temporary medical disqualification. Section 7, reinstatement. Membership in PATCO shall be reinstated to those persons affected by the provisions of Article 6, Section 6, only after payment of all local and national initiation fees which are in effect at the time of reinstatement. Question before the body, amendment to Article 6, the National Constitution, Section 6 and Section 7, again requiring 2/3 to amend. Those in favor of amending Article 6 of the National Constitution indicate by standing. Those opposed? Fails to carry. Call for division.
Gentlemen, when I call the roll, if you
Let me interrupt just for 1 second. According to the rules that we've published, it does require 2/3, and in the view of the chair, there was not sufficient to override with 2/3. And I'd ask the body on this issue, on the recall, it requires 2/3 on the motion to run through the tally count over here. It requires 25% of the body. To support the motion, which was made from the floor for the count, those in favor, please indicate by standing.
Mr. Chairman?
It requires, point of order. Point of inquiry, microphone 2.
Are you asking us to support the call for division by 25% of the
That is
voting?
incorporated in the rules. If there's a question by the chair, it would require 25% of the body assembled to support the call
for division.
For division. The question before the body is, the chair said that there were not sufficient to amend Article 6. There was a call for division. The chair is now asking those representatives who support the call for division, it requires 25% to please stand. Call division.
Mr. Chairman?
Chair recognizes microphone 3.
Yes, sir. I misunderstood the ruling, and I called for division. I wish to withdraw my request.
There was another call for division, so we'll proceed with the call. Thank you.
Point of clarification.
Recognize the delegate at microphone 4.
Len Dickinson, Fort Worth Center. I'd like a legal opinion on Section 7. It is my understanding that you can keep somebody out of operating in a local if he doesn't pay his local initiation fees, but you cannot exclude him from membership in the national organization if he pays his national fees. This is contradictory here as it stands.
That question has been addressed and challenged. The Executive Board deliberated, but I don't think it's germane to this issue right now before us. They can, in effect, remove local dues. It does not necessarily preclude an individual from holding national or paying national dues and being a member of the national organization. This issue itself is not addressed here, and that's not the main issue we're discussing now.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, point of clarification.
Yes?
Would you read Section 7 again? I thought we amended Section 7. And
Section 7 was not amended. Section 7 was not amended. The body did not amend Section 7. What's before the body is the proposed changes that you have that was submitted, Section 6 and Section 7 of Article 6.
Section 7 was not amended to include the 30-day time parameters for reinstatement?
That is correct.
Thank you.
The question before the body and the deliberation and the call for the roll now is on Article 6, Section 6 and 7, as printed in the copy of the proposed amendments. Call for division.
Gentlemen, we need not go to the microphones except those who are casting split votes. I please ask them to go to the microphones. Other than that, I think we can do it from the floor, from your chairs. Anchorage Center. Anchorage Center.
Anchorage Center votes for the amendment.
Anchorage Center, would you say again, please? Anchorage Center, yes. Anchorage Terminals.
Anchorage Terminals, 78 yes, 27 no.
Anchorage Terminals, 78 yes, 27 no. Albuquerque Center. Albuquerque Center, no. Albuquerque Terminals.
Albuquerque Terminals, 33 for, 91 against.
Albuquerque Terminals, 33 for, 91 against. Atlanta Center. Atlanta Center, 396 no. Atlanta Terminals.
Atlanta Terminals, 210 no, and I believe it'll leave 342 yes.
That's right. Atlanta Terminals, 342 yes, 210 no. Balboa C-Rep. Balboa C-Rep, no. Boston Center. Boston Center, no. Boston Terminals.
Boston Terminals, 270 yes, 174 no.
Boston Terminals, 270 yes, 174 no. Chicago Center. Chicago Center, no. Chicago Terminals.
Chicago Terminals, 7 no, 518 yes.
Chicago Terminals, 518 yes, 7 no. Cleveland Center.
490 yes.
Cleveland Center, 490 yes. Cleveland Terminals. Cleveland Terminals, 345 yes. Denver Center.
Denver Center, 150 yes, 100 no, 1 abstention.
Denver Center is 150 yes, 100 no, 1 abstention. Denver Terminals. Denver Terminals, yes. Fort Worth Center. No. Fort Worth Center, no. Fort Worth Terminals.
Fort Worth Terminals cast
Fort Worth
35 votes against, 414 for.
Fort Worth Terminals, would you give me the against again, please? The nays.
35 against, 414 for.
Fort Worth Terminals, 414 yes, 35 noes. Guam CRAP. Guam CRAP, yes. Honolulu Center.
Honolulu Center, 112 yes, 1 no.
Honolulu Center, 112 yes, 1 no. Honolulu Terminals. Honolulu Terminals, yes. Houston Center. Houston Center, no. Houston Terminals. Houston Terminals, no. Indianapolis Center. Indianapolis Center, no. Indianapolis Terminals. Indianapolis Terminals, no. Jacksonville Center.
Jacksonville Center, 2 for, 268 against.
Jacksonville Center, 268 yes. Correction. Jacksonville Center, 2 yes, 268 no. Jacksonville Terminals.
Jacksonville Terminals, 11 yes, 308 no.
Jacksonville Terminals, 11 yes, 308 no. Kansas City Center. Kansas City Center, no. Kansas City Terminals. Kansas City Terminals, yes. Los Angeles Center.
Los Angeles Center, 1 yay, 282 no.
Los Angeles Center's 1 yes, 282 no. Los Angeles Terminals.
Los Angeles Terminals passes.
Los Angeles Terminal passes. Memphis Center. Memphis Center, no. Memphis Terminals.
To preclude the 4 for being mixed up with the numerical 4, let's either say yes or no. Yes or no on the issues.
Memphis Terminals, 211 yes, 90 no.
Memphis Terminals, 211 yes, 90 no. Miami Center.
Miami Center, 303 yes, 1 no.
Miami Center, 303 yes, 1 no. Miami Terminals.
Miami Terminals, 26 yes, 376 no.
Miami Terminals, 26 yes, 376 no. Minneapolis Center. Yeah, 204. 87. Does that count? Minneapolis Center, 87 yes, 204 no. Minneapolis Terminals.
Minneapolis Terminals, 118 yes, 19 no.
Total good. Minneapolis Terminals, 118 yes, 19 no's. New York Center.
561 yes.
New York Center, 561 yes. New York Terminals.
Yes.
733 yes. New York Terminals. Oakland Center. Oakland Center, yes. 256. Oakland Terminals.
Oakland Terminals, 325 no, 55 yes.
Oakland Terminals, 55 yes, 325 no. Salt Lake City Center. Salt Lake City Center, no. Salt Lake Terminals. Salt Lake Terminals, no. San Juan Center. San Juan Center, no. San Juan Terminals. San Juan Terminals, yes. Seattle Center. Seattle Center, yes. Seattle Terminals. Seattle Terminals, yes. Washington Center.
Controllers at Washington Center vote yes.
Washington Center, yes. Washington Terminals.
Washington Terminals, 470 yes, 1 no.
Washington Terminals, 470 yes, 1 no. Los Angeles Terminals.
Los Angeles Terminals, 504 yes, 214 no.
Los Angeles Terminals, 504 yes, 214 no. Thank you.
I have a correction, Stan. Atlanta Terminal.
Atlanta Terminals.
368 yes, 184 no.
Repeat that, Mike.
Atlanta Terminals, 368 yes, 184 no.
368 yes, 184 no, Atlanta Terminals. Thank you.
John, where's Dave? He's talking with Monica from ATA. He's here, trying to work something out. Again, the total required to amend is 9630 while we're waiting for the tabulation.
Mr. Chairman,
Recognize the delegate at microphone 3.
when the vote is finished being tabulated, can we have a 15-minute recess?
A 15-minute recess would be in order. I'd appreciate it though if the delegates don't go wandering so we can continue. We have a lot of business to conduct today.
Okay,
15
one
minutes
question
to
for
go.
General Counsel also. Can an EPDS run for president of the organization? Or a local president, excuse me.
Is a question for local presidency?
Yes, can an EPDS run for a local president?
You mean now or with? John, do you mean presently?
Can an EPDS, we have no status of inactive status for an EPDS or whatsoever, can an EPDS run for a local presidency?
No.
What precludes him from it?
He is not, at the present time, he's not a member of the bargaining unit.
He's a member of the organization. In good standing.
John, is he in good standing in the local, or do you mean good standing at the national level?
He is good standing in the local and the national level. He's a member of the organization. He's a
If he
dues-paying
is in
member.
good standing at the local level, then yes, he can run for office at the national level.
Thank
or
you.
National and local. Yes.
Thank you.
John, point of inquiry.
Go ahead.
Did you say we're going to take a 15-minute break now? And
At the conclusion of the tabulation of the vote and the announcement of the vote, that we will take a 15-minute recess.
what time are we going to go to lunch then?
We may not go to lunch today. Oh, you have the banquet today. We better go to lunch. Yes, we will. John, if you can defer that 15-minute recess, if you take it back, please. I'd like to proceed until lunchtime.
Okay.
All right. We'll continue. Thank you, Bill. I had the days mixed up. We plan on breaking at 12 so they can set up for the luncheon. So we'll continue business until 12 o'clock. Delegate at
John.
microphone 5.
Question. John, according to Article 2, Section 2 of our contract, EPDSs are excluded from the bargaining unit.
That's correct. The response that the council gave is still correct. The member is in good standing at the local level and at the national, and as such is not precluded from running for either national office or local office, the contract provision notwithstanding.
How can he be in good standing if he's not a member of the unit, according to our contracts?
There are two different issues, Bill, that are being posed. He can be a member in good standing, but not subject to the provisions or protections of the contract. I don't see any conflict between the two. That's what the question from Polino was, under the existing.
Vote number 3.
To clarify, under the present Constitution, I believe that was the initial question posed by John Polino. Under the existing Constitution, there is no preclusion. If this were amended, then the response would be no on both instances. Is that clear now for the body?
Total it out on the bottom. Right, one abstention. Okay, good. Mr. Chairman.
Recognize the delegate at microphone 2.
Mr. Chairman, Lowell Gibson, Los Angeles Center. I feel that the question that these people are bringing up about an EPDS being elected as an officer in the organization, if you're dumb enough to elect one, have at it.
Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes the Credentials Committee Chairman.
7,784 yes, 6,659 no, 1 abstention. Thank you.
Amendment fails to carry. The next order of business before the body is Article 7.
John, point of privilege. Can we have the vote repeated just one time, please?
This is a point of order for the vote to be repeated. Would the chairman please repeat the vote?
7,784 yes, 6,659 no, 1 abstention.
Next order of business before the body is Article 7, Section 6, dues, amendment to the National Constitution, reads as follows. The dues of all members of the organization shall be proposed by the Executive Board and reviewed by the National Finance Committee. The voting representative shall act upon the committee's recommendation subject to ratification by the membership by secret ballot. Discussion? Call for the question. Those in favor of...
John, excuse me.
Recognize the delegate microphone 2.
Dennis Battle, Boston Terminals. We would like to change on the first line to include the word national dues.
We'll consider that as Scribner's. It doesn't require an amendment. The national dues. Question before the body is the insertion of national after what you have before you in the copy that was provided on the proposed amendments to the National Constitution. Article 7, Finance, section on dues. Any discussion? Call for the question. Those in favor of amending Article 7 of the National Constitution indicate by standing. Those opposed? Article 7 of the National Constitution is amended. Next order of business before the body is Article 9 of the National Constitution. Article 9, voting representatives and voting procedures. Section 2, the selection. B, no voting representative or alternate voting representative shall serve as a member of a national standing committee or national negotiating committee, or of the National Negotiation Committee. Discussion? Recognize the delegate at microphone 3.
On behalf of the Executive Board, I would like to express the opinion that we decided upon as far as this article is concerned. The Executive Board is opposed